Since early on, many people believe they need to have all the answers before taking the first step. But the truth is that the decision comes before the path, not the other way around. You don't need to know exactly how to reach your destination, but rather have the courage to decide that you will get there. Most people postpone their dreams waiting for a clarity that will never come, when in reality, it's decisive action that builds clarity. That's how a simple act of courage changed my life forever. And that's what we're going to talk about now. I wasn't the picture of success you might imagine. Quite the opposite. I spent much of my youth directionless, unmotivated, and with such low self-esteem that I believed I didn't deserve anything great. I was expelled from school after 2 months, worked in uninspiring jobs, and felt trapped in a life without prospects. For years, I carried the silent conviction that I would never be more than a spectator of life, watching others succeed while I merely survived. But something changed radically when I met someone who introduced me not just to a book, but to a new way of thinking. He handed me a copy of Think and Grow Rich and said something that changed everything. If you do exactly what I tell you, you can have everything you want. At first, I thought it was nonsense because I was sick, broke, and completely lost. But there was something in his tone that sparked my curiosity. He asked me, "Is your way working?" And in that moment, without hesitation, I realized it wasn't. That was the moment I agreed to do exactly what he said, even without fully understanding it. The first step was to write on a card exactly what I wanted to achieve. I had never thought about making money, only about paying off debts. But in that moment, I wrote that I wanted to have $25,000. It was an absurd amount for me, practically impossible. But that's when I learned one of the greatest lessons of my life. You become what you think about. Before, my mind was saturated with thoughts of scarcity, pressure, and fear, and that kept me trapped in the same cycle of failure. The simple act of thinking every day about what I wanted, not what I feared, began to change my perception. I started seeing opportunities where I once saw only barriers. Soon after, an opportunity came up to clean offices for a modest sum, and I accepted without hesitation. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't prestigious, but it was movement, and movement generates energy. Within just 1 year, my income surpassed that of my boss at the fire department, and I realized I was in control of my own destiny. The curious thing is that even with the money coming in, my mind still struggled to understand how it had all happened. I had been raised to believe that success was a privilege reserved for highly intelligent or highly educated people, and I was neither. That's when I understood that the real key isn't in academic intelligence, but in emotional intelligence and the courage to follow a method to the end. I decided to dive into the study of personal development and realized that if I had changed my life like this, I could help anyone change theirs too. That discovery became an uncontrollable passion, teaching others to break the mental chains that hold them back. I learned that life responds to what you project and that the laws of the universe are immutable, operating as precisely as the laws of physics. When you give willingly, you receive willingly. And I'm not just talking about money, but about energy, attention, and value. My mother taught me this without even realizing it, helping neighboring families even when we barely had enough for ourselves. She didn't know success theories, but she knew the essence of it, generosity. That's how I realized that giving not only transforms the recipient, but elevates the giver. Generosity creates a cycle of prosperity that goes beyond what we can measure. I understood that every act of giving creates space for receiving, because that's the natural law of the universe. And it was by following these laws that I began to align my life with principles that led to extraordinary results. But something even deeper was happening. My mind was awakening to the higher faculties I possessed but had never used. School doesn't teach this, and most environments don't encourage it, but we all have within us perception, imagination, will, intuition, and reason, tools to create our reality. I discovered that changing my perception completely changed my life because it determined how I saw the world and how the world responded to me. With will, I learned to hold a mental image so strong that nothing external could shake it. With imagination, I learned to envision grand futures before any physical evidence existed. With intuition, I began to sense people, opportunities, and situations almost instantly, as if I could feel the truth before proving it. And with reason, I learned to question old beliefs and replace them with principles that propelled me forward, not limited me. Each of these faculties, when used consciously, is capable of completely reshaping anyone's life. Today, I look back and see that the moment I wrote on that simple card was the turning point of my story. Not because of the amount I wrote, but because it was the first time I allowed myself to believe I could choose my destiny. The decision was the seed, focus was the water, and action was the sun that made it all grow. If you understand this, you're already closer to changing your life than you think. No matter where you are now, no matter how lost or limited you feel, change begins when you decide what you want and commit to it. I started broken, discredited, and without prospects. But I chose to believe. And when you believe, the laws of the universe start working in your favor. Don't wait for everything to be clear to act, because action is what clears the path. Don't wait to have all the answers, because they will come in the process. And above all, never underestimate the power of a simple decision, because it can be the start of an unimaginable transformation. I began to realize that we all possess higher faculties, tools within us that we never learned to use, and that school, parents, or society rarely teach, which is why so few people truly achieve success in life. When we look at the world today, we see an abundance of books, courses, and materials about success. But most people don't know how to use them or how to apply that knowledge to transform their lives. In 1961, when I began studying personal development, resources were limited. There were a few books like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The Power of Positive Thinking. Today, there are thousands of titles, yet people remain stagnant. The problem isn't a lack of information, it's a lack of skill in using the faculties God gave us. Perception, will, imagination, intuition, reason, and memory, 6 powerful pillars that, when mastered, transform any life. Memory, for example, is not limited. Everyone has a perfect memory, just underdeveloped. I worked with people who had extraordinary retention abilities and learned that it's a matter of training, attention, and discipline. Intuition is another of these faculties, and most people think it's inaccessible when, in fact, we are all naturally psychic. We can pick up subtle information from the universe if we learn to listen. The great secret is simple. Ignorance limits us. We don't know we have these faculties or how to use them, and that prevents us from achieving everything within our reach. When a problem arises, whether financial, emotional, or professional, the first thing we should do is externalize it, put it on paper, detail it clearly, so we can analyze it objectively. Ask yourself, is the problem in me or on the paper? Work on it until you can separate it from yourself, see it as an outside observer without emotion, and find solutions with clarity. Perception is trainable. The energy of the world is constantly flowing around us, and by learning to feel it, we notice opportunities and solutions that once seemed invisible. Concentration is essential because what you give attention to grows. As Emerson said, nothing grows except what receives energy. Learning to use will means controlling our mind and directing our attention, focusing not on ourselves but on others, on the purpose we want to achieve, on the mission we wish to fulfill. When you interact with people, Be genuinely interested in them. The most interesting person in the room is the one who is most interested in others. This completely changes how you communicate, how you build relationships, and how you influence the world around you. Intuition arises when you can detach from the ego and tune into the energy of the environment or people. There's no magic. It's about attention, perception, and complete surrender to the moment. Learning to speak in public, for example, isn't about showing off. It's about serving, teaching, and sharing value. When you focus on the audience, not your insecurities, everything changes. Confidence isn't innate. It's acquired through learning, mastering knowledge, and constant practice. No one is born confident, but anyone can become confident. Observing the greats is a powerful path, learning from those who already master their fields, incorporating small lessons and adapting them to your style, not blindly imitating, but absorbing the essence. Self-image is another fundamental tool. Visualize yourself as you want to be, mentally live what you want to achieve, and your body and mind will start acting as if you've already succeeded. Shakespeare said the world is a stage, and we are all actors. The difference is that some act as if they don't yet have what they want, while others behave as if they're already the version they aspire to be. Imagination is powerful but needs direction. Imagine not the problems, but the solutions. Visualize yourself living the results you desire, and that mental energy will attract the corresponding opportunities. We are all conditioned genetically and environmentally, but this paradigm can be transformed. Our subconscious mind holds patterns, but we can reprogram it with discipline, focus, and constant practice. Conditioning determines how we react, think, and feel, which is why brilliant people can fail. It's not a lack of talent, but a paradigm that limits their expression. Each generation carries genetic and environmental information that shapes our worldview, but we can break these cycles and create new mental patterns. Learning to master the higher faculties is the path to breaking limitations and accessing our maximum potential, allowing anyone to shine regardless of their origin or circumstances. Incorporating habits of observation, attention, and practice is essential. Studying examples, simulating situations, acting as if you've already achieved your goals until reality aligns with your vision. Every interaction is a training opportunity. If someone is negative, focus on positive energy, on receptive people, and direct your attention to what builds. Serving the public, people, or your purpose transforms the energy of the experience, eliminates fear and insecurity, and generates authentic confidence and presence. Even small actions like observing posture, tone of voice, or gestures can create a profound impact when consciously trained. The power of the alter ego is a practical technique, incorporating traits of people you admire to overcome insecurities and act confidently in challenging situations. Constant practice of self-image, observing examples, and focusing on serving creates the foundation for becoming not just successful, but exceptional. Imagination isn't a luxury, it's a daily tool. Dedicate time to visualize your goals, feel what it would be like to achieve them, and integrate those images into your subconscious. All creation happens twice. First mentally, then physically. If you don't visualize, you don't manifest. If you visualize, you direct energy toward the result. Our spiritual energy is perfect, but needs expression. Otherwise, mental and environmental conditioning limits its potential. Genetics, environment, and conditioning shape us, but don't determine our destiny. We can transcend limitations if we learn to use our higher faculties. Brilliant people who fail don't lack talent. They lack awareness and mastery of their own minds and faculties. The power of perception, concentration, will, imagination, intuition, reason, and memory is limitless when applied with discipline, focus, and practice. By studying, observing, and incorporating, we learn to act as if we are already the person we want to be, and this transforms our external reality. Every thought, every focus of energy, every act of conscious attention is a step in building the life we aspire to. Developing these faculties is a daily commitment that requires patience, practice, and the courage to look at yourself objectively. Even when fear, insecurity, or doubts arise, we can choose to direct energy towards solutions, learning, and growth instead of remaining paralyzed. Serving others, focusing on contribution, and paying attention to the value we can generate transforms simple efforts into extraordinary results. Confidence emerges when practice becomes habit and knowledge is internalized. Fear disappears when the focus shifts from yourself to the impact you create. Every challenge faced, every problem analyzed and externalized, every skill trained builds the structure for sustainable and meaningful success. The energy flowing around us isn't static. It responds to the attention, perception, and concentration we give it. If you learn to tune your mind to this energy, intuition becomes natural, solutions arise, and the path opens before you. Imagination must be nurtured daily. Visualize what you want with vivid detail. Feel the emotion of having achieved it, and let your subconscious align with the reality you want to create. The mental paradigm is the true obstacle. Understanding its influence, questioning it, and reprogramming it is the most decisive step to unlocking your potential. Conditioning doesn't define who you are, but it influences how you perceive yourself. By becoming aware of this, you can break free from limitations and act with freedom. Perception, attention, imagination, and intuition are keys that, when combined with conscious action, generate extraordinary results and transform lives. When you focus on what you can do, on serving, contributing, and learning, the universe responds, opportunities appear, and the impossible becomes possible. The daily practice of observing, imitating, studying, and incorporating the best in others is a powerful way to accelerate your own development. The secret to effective communication is simple. Focus on the other person, listen attentively, be present and genuinely interested, and your message will be absorbed. Confidence, presence, security, and the ability to make an impact begin within you and expand outward as you practice, observe, and incorporate. The alter ego, self-image, and visualization are practical tools that help overcome fears, insecurities, and limitations, allowing you to act as the most powerful version of yourself. True learning isn't just about absorbing knowledge, but about applying, internalizing, and acting according to principles that transform the mind and life. If you want extraordinary results, you must become the person those results require. Acting as if you already are, thinking as if you've already achieved, and feeling as if you're already there. Positive energy, focus on service, and attention to the value you can generate are powerful forces that turn small actions into monumental achievements. The practice of perception, concentration, intuition, and imagination isn't optional. It's the foundation of personal development that leads to true and sustainable success. Even in the face of criticism, negativity, or external challenges, internal mastery of these faculties allows you to stay on the path, focused and resilient. By mastering these higher faculties, you not only change your life, but positively influence everyone around you, raising standards and inspiring transformation. The constant development of these skills requires discipline, patience, and courage, but the results outweigh any difficulty, providing freedom, security, and fulfillment. Every step, every practice, every visualization is a brick in the construction of your greatness, and the process is ongoing, without end, because excellence is a journey, not a destination. Here is the text translated into English. Our paradigms often make us give up before we even try, because we're programmed to believe certain things are impossible. He won his first gold medal at 48, and at 52 he won again, showing that even in the face of obstacles and more talented competitors, persistence and a paradigm shift can yield extraordinary results. I heard this from him countless times. There were many athletes better than him, but they gave up, while he kept going because he wasn't bound by the paradigms that limit most people. Our behavior is shaped by paradigms. They are the silent programming that keeps us trapped in old patterns. I worked for years in an insurance company, extremely efficient at what I did, increasing sales by over $1 billion simply by helping people change their own work paradigms. Every country, every family, every company has its own culture, and culture is nothing more than a set of paradigms. In the insurance industry years ago, agents were called collectors. They went door to door just collecting debts, recording every cent in small notebooks. Over time, methods changed, but the agent's behavior didn't. They sold at night, only when parents were home, because that was the programming they received. Even in the 1970s, agents still followed this pattern, going to the office every day without selling a single policy because they believed that's how it should be. That's when I started showing how changing paradigms could transform results. If you want to sell more, you need to question your own behavior, look at your results and ask, why am I doing it this way? Why don't I achieve more? The answer is almost always that we're trapped in our subconscious, programmed to act in a certain way, even when we intellectually know what would be better. Knowledge alone doesn't change behavior. It's the paradigm shift that produces tangible results. This requires working on conscious repetition. For example, I started writing with my left hand, despite being right-handed, every day to reprogram my brain. Each stroke of the pen demands conscious attention, and through this practice, my paradigm is being altered. This is just one example of what we can do to change deeply ingrained habits and behaviors. But it's essential for those who want extraordinary results. If you want to increase your effectiveness, boost sales, or create real impact, you need to work daily on changing your own paradigm, studying your behavior, and adjusting every action. The results we achieve are direct reflections of our paradigms, not our intellect. You know what to do, but you need to align your internal programming to act in accordance with that knowledge. The process requires commitment. When we held a paradigm-shifting seminar in Los Angeles, we provided binders with a daily practice. Write down 10 things you're grateful for and affirm your spiritual perfection and potential. It's a reprogramming exercise, showing that every consciously repeated action alters the paradigm and brings us closer to our maximum potential. Changing paradigms is about breaking free from inherited programming. When we look at the world, we realize that much of what we see is filtered through conditioning. People see colors, races, or differences, but that's just programmed perception. The essence is that we are all the same, and our results differ only because of the paradigms we accept or reject. Financial success follows the same logic. Many believe that working harder is the solution, but the real path lies in identifying demands, applying defined principles, and creating multiple streams of income. Wealth doesn't come by chance or luck. It comes from the conscious application of principles and the expansion of our potential. I myself started earning little, spending more than I had, until I realized I needed to reprogram my approach to wealth, creating automated income systems and focusing on clear goals. This paradigm shift allowed me to teach entire teams to think differently, act differently, and achieve results that seemed impossible. Today, anyone who dedicates themselves to studying their own behavior, investing in the right knowledge, has unlimited potential. You need to stop settling for collective ignorance and start applying principles that actually work. The seminar doesn't just teach sales techniques or wealth strategies. It teaches self-knowledge, perception, the use of will and imagination, and how to align our actions with our spiritual and mental potential. Every person who commits to investing in themselves discovers they have an infinite capacity to learn, grow, and transform their life. It doesn't matter where you come from, your background, your race, your age, or your financial situation. We are all born with unlimited potential. It's about discovering it, reprogramming paradigms, and applying that knowledge daily. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, but through small, consistent changes repeated with conscious attention that accumulate into extraordinary results. Learning to use imagination, align your will with your goals, and work consciously on your own development changes your life. Ordinary people remain trapped in inherited paradigms. Extraordinary people reprogram themselves daily to create a different reality. The power to change is within you. The potential is infinite. The knowledge is available, and the results directly reflect the changes you make in your paradigms. And finally, for those struggling financially, living week to week, it's time to realize you don't need to remain in ignorance. You can create multiple income streams, automate payments, invest in education, and start breaking free from scarcity. The key is to shift the paradigm, from being a victim of circumstances to becoming a conscious creator of your own life, using universal principles of wealth, behavior, and perception. The path to freedom and wealth isn't linear, but it's accessible to anyone willing to study, observe, and consistently apply the right knowledge. Human potential is infinite, and anyone willing to deeply understand themselves and reprogram their paradigms can achieve extraordinary results in all areas of life.